The Morrison Chamber of Commerce Board of Directors is very, very happy to see so many chairs filled tonight and eager faces. So thank you. Let me tell you about the Chamber. The three purposes of the Morrison Chamber of Commerce are the advancement of the civic, commercial, professional, industrial, and agricultural interests of the city of Morrison, Illinois, the promotion of the general welfare and prosperity of the city, and the stimulation of public sentiment to these ends, and the providing of such social features as will promote these purposes, such as tonight's event. The Chamber in its activities is nonpartisan, non-sectional, and non-sectarian. It shall not, by resolution or otherwise, be committed to the support or endorsement of any candidate for public office, but will provide citizens with information for them to make an informed decision. Audience members are asked to hold their applause until the end of the forum. No questions will be taken from the floor, but you all will have a chance after the forum to mingle with the candidates and enjoy refreshments. The moderator and event hosts reserve the right to ask anyone to leave for disrespectful or threatening behavior. Now, it is my honor to introduce your candidates for mayor. On your left, we begin with Sarah Thorndike, Everett Paneer, Marty Wood, and perhaps David Gendrich may come late. We're expecting him. In order, each mayoral candidate will give an opening statement no longer than 2 minutes in length. And we will begin with Sarah Thorndike.
Thank you. Is this close enough? If you had told me 40 years ago I would still be living in Morrison, I would have said you were crazy. But here I am. I'm here because Morrison is a good place to live. It's a good place to raise your kids. I want it to be a good place for our children to raise their children. Could it be better? Of course it could be better. We do have some significant challenges facing us in the next few years. We desperately need a new water treatment plant. Our infrastructure is aging, and we have dwindling funds with which to repair our deteriorating streets and sewer lines. We need to engage in some out-of-the-box thinking, come up with some creative and innovative ways to deal with these issues and still stay within our budget. Communication, clarity, and cooperation are my watchwords for my mayoral candidacy. Communication, according to Webster, is to impart knowledge of or to make known. To improve communication, I plan to submit regular reports on happenings in our fair city to the local media outlets and the city's website. I also plan to hold regular office hours, and I promise to return phone calls. Clarity goes along with communication. I pledge to present city issues in a clear and forthright manner. Cooperation. An act or instance of working together for a common purpose. We all of us here, have the same common purpose, to make Morrison a better place to live for ourselves and for our future generations. Thank you.
First, I want to thank the Chamber and Stephanie for being willing to moderate tonight. My name is Everett Paneer. Sometimes you'll see that I have an R in front of my name. And since I'm all about openness, I'm going to tell you what that R stands for. It stands for Ralph. It happens to be my father's name that we just never used, but I put it on the front of things so my doctor, my lawyer, and now you know what the R stands for. I'm married to my wife Nancy. We'll be married for 50 years this June. We have 3 children, Doug, Sherry, and Keith, one of which is here tonight, along with 7 grandchildren. My work experience is basically with GE. I was raised on a farm until I was 16, graduated from high school here in 1961, and immediately went to work for GE on the apprenticeship program, graduating and becoming a tool and die maker, and shortly after that went into the salary ranks. And there I was for the remainder of my career. I was fortunate to be able to be a plant manager in Carroll, Iowa, followed by a plant manager here in 1995 until 2003 when I retired. I believe my background is strong in budgets and communications and all the other things, especially personnel. And that's what I would plan to bring those strengths to the position of mayor. I got 30 seconds, good deal. My concept with management style is open and upfront and honest. If I tell you something, it's the truth. But the thing is, I will always listen to you. I will always get back to you and give you good feedback. And I think as Morrison moves forward, we need that kind of leadership. We've got a lot of things looking at us in the near future that need that type of leadership. Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Marty Wood. Most of you know me probably from my letters to the editor about things that are going on in the city. I believe in getting the truth out to the residents. I've lived here since 1998. I worked in a factory for many years and the factory closed, so I know what that's like when people lose their jobs and are really scraping to get by. So I really know how to manage my money. And I try to do the same for the city of Morrison. When I think there's an issue with spending money, I do bring it forward and try to help guide our city in a favorable way. If I become mayor, I'd like to see a mayor's corner where all the area mayors could write a little article once a month to the newspaper and see what's going on in their neck of the woods and see how other communities are run. I also think that one of the biggest problems we have is keeping our spending under control. And since I've been on the council, I've done due diligence to keep our finances in check. And I've been an alderman for 2 years, and I continue to stay interested and look for ways to save. A vote for me is a vote for honesty and integrity. I will continue to encourage our residents by managing our resources efficiently. Citizens united to save. More cuts, that's my motto.
Next, I'm pleased to introduce many of our candidates for alderman. Some of them could not be with us tonight, so I will make that known to you. First is our city clerk, Melanie Schrader, who is running for election, but because she does not vote on issues, she did not attend the forum. Next, we have from Ward 1, Dale Isengay. He is running against Cheryl Bush, who was unable to attend. Ward 2 begins with Harvey Zeidema and Nancy Riggin. Ward 3, we should raise our hands, Kurt Bender and Vernon Tervelt. And in Ward 4, we have one of our candidates. I'll mention the other gentleman. David Helms is out of the state, and he would be running for a 4-year term, but Scott Connolly is running for a 2-year unexpired term. So we do have Scott with us. All right. Now, once again, we're going to allow each of the candidates here to make their opening statement for 2 minutes. Beginning with Dale Isengay.
Hi, I'm Dale Isengay. I'm running in the Ward 1 Alderman, and there's a lot of decisions that have to be made to try to get the town, like the roads and everything, in good shape. Where we find the money, I don't know, but I will do the best I can for the city, always trying to keep the city first. Is my time up yet?
I'm Harvey Zeidema, candidate for 2nd Ward Alderman. I was born in 1939 in the old Morrison Hospital located on Main Street. I married Karen Tekla in 1960. I have 4 adult children, Carmen Church, Todd, Dean, Myron Zeidema, and and have 7 grandchildren, all who live in the Morrison and Sterling area. I graduated from Morrison High School in 57, served in the United States Army, and worked for Goodness Dairy in Morrison. My wife and I began farming in 1962 and still do some farming today and own land in the Morrison area. I was a seed corn rep, sales for 29 years. I moved to Morrison from the same farm we lived on for 36 years to our current home on Hilltop Drive in 1998. I'm a lifetime member of Ebenezer Reformed Church in Morrison and has been a usher there for 54 years. I've been a member of several boards, Whiteside Cattlemen's Association for 20 plus years, Friends of the Park, Morrison Historical Society since 2004. I'm serving as president on my 3rd year. Karen and I managed the Whiteside County Cattlemen's and Morrison Athletic Boosters Fair Stand for 20 years. I attended most of the Morrison School Board meetings from the years 2000 to 2011. You would have seen me at almost all the Morrison City Council meetings for the last 3 years. I attended many of the city budget and commission meetings over this 3-year time period. My interest will be in finance of the city government. I will work for the concerns of the people of Ward 2 and the city of Morrison. I plan to hold
Sorry, that's not.
What if I'm not ready? Okay, I'm Nancy Riggin, and a candidate for Ward 2 Alderman. I was born and raised in Morrison, attended Morrison schools, and I'm employed in Morrison. I'm a single mother and raised my 2 children here also. I attended Sauk Valley Junior College after high school, taking business classes. I then attended AIC Business College in the Quad Cities, and I also took evening business classes at Sauk Valley Junior College when my children were young. I have been employed at the Whiteside County Sheriff's Office for 22 years as administrative assistant to the sheriff, and I'm still employed there because I can't afford to retire. Part of my job duties there at the Sheriff's Office consists of processing all the Sheriff's Office accounts payable and assisting the sheriff in budget preparation. I am currently on the Odell Public Library Board, and as a board member, I'm serving on the Budget Committee and participate with library fundraising. I started attending council meetings about 3 years ago and have made statements during the public comment on issues that I feel strongly about, which are the street conditions, spending, and accountability. I think it's time to take Morrison in a new direction, starting with new council members, a new mayor, more input from the citizens, and a more transparent city government. Thank you.
My name is Kurt Bender. I'm running for 3rd Ward Alderman. I'm running because I think I can make a difference and bring a different perspective to the council. I've been employed with Willett Hoffman and Associates for over 30 years. I started my career as a survey rodman, and I've worked my way all the way up to a professional land surveyor, where I'm currently vice president and survey department manager for Willett Hoffman and Associates. During my 30 years, I've worked extensively with municipalities, governmental agencies, on survey and engineering projects. I believe this experience gives me insight into planning, design, construction, and cost for construction projects the city of Morrison is currently in and will be faced with in the future. I currently serve on the board of directors of Willett Hoffman and Associates, on the Morrison Planning and Zoning Board. I'm the former president of the Winnipeg chapter of the Illinois Professional Land Surveyors Association. I've served on the Morrison Leaf Burning Ad Hoc Committee. These positions have taught me how to analyze information and make informed decisions and take into account numerous perspectives. I've been married to my wife for 26 years. I have 2 daughters. We moved to Morrison in 1995. We selected Morrison because it was a great place to settle down and raise 2 daughters. We were attracted to the community because of the amenities that it offered for a town this size. Great schools, recreational opportunities, shopping within the town, and affordability. During the past years, I've noticed, it seems to me, that our town is more reactive than proactive. And I think it's time for the community to address the comprehensive plan and the community we want to move forward in the future, and we need to put our priorities in order. And that's about all I have to say.
I am Vernon Trevell. As a resident of the city of Morrison for over 60 years, I care about what happens to our city and the people within it. I stand for strong neighborhood character, excellent service programs, and fiscal responsibility. Throughout my years, I've met, listened to, and worked with people of differing viewpoints. I feel that through the individuals working together to make changes for our city with a positive outlook, utilizing responsible planning, and working together, we can offer more to the deserving people of Morrison. As a member of the council, I would like to build a livable community. We must control traffic, protect our neighborhoods, respect our environment, add affordable housing, and make the city more user-friendly. Enhance our city-school relationships. I will use my experience with the education to build partnerships with the city and our schools. Serve the senior citizens of Morrison must be more modernized for our aging population. Make the government accountable to our citizens. We need to review the city process, use the technology to serve the citizens affordably and quickly. And finally, entice strong business. In order to continue to grow and bring families to our community, we need to continue to look at what services and resources we can offer our residents. With that, I will continue working for the city of Morrison. I appreciate your support.
Hello? Hello. I'm Scott Conley. I grew up in Morrison for the most part, graduated Morrison Junior High and high school, and I was sure that I would not come back to Morrison at that point. As a young parent, Morrison looked much different to me, and I've spent the last 15 years living and working in Morrison. I've been very active in community organizations such as Little League, wrestling, soccer, catechism. I spent 7 years on the city council previously from 2003 to 2010. And in 2010, I decided it was time to get fresh blood on the council and give someone else a chance. Found a promising candidate for my ward who ended up moving and leaving the community. After several suggestions and requests, I returned to the council, and I feel it's the right decision. I felt like I had unfinished business and that there were many projects and problems facing the community. I felt it was my civic responsibility to help. I feel that my previous experience as an alderman has given me greater insight into the workings of city government and my role as an alderman. I just can simply pledge to do the best and act with my conscience and my convictions. Thank you.
Tonight's questions have been pre-selected from those submitted by the public. No questions were selected that were personal, attacking, or rude. Candidates will again have 2 minutes to respond to each question. We will go round robin. We'll start with Dale here, and then each candidate will answer the same question until they've all had an opportunity. Same then with the mayoral candidates. I would urge everybody to listen carefully to the question as it's posed, so you can be thinking of some things you might like to say when it's your turn. So we start with a question for a City Council Alderman, Dale Isengay. What are your top priorities that the City Council must address during the next term? Kindly state your viewpoint and suggestions for change. And I would like to say that anyone may ask me to repeat the question.
Well, I guess one of my priorities is something everybody drives on every day. One of the worst roads in town is in the first ward, East Main Street. They talk about the 25-mile-an-hour speed limit, but I don't think you can do 25 mile an hour down that road. There's a lot of other priorities. We've got the new water treatment plant going in. I'm not too well versed on that, so I can't say too much about it. I'm not sure how our well is doing. I know we've had a lot of issues with that. Just the general overall financial health of the city is very crucial right now, I think. You know, where we generate more funds from, I'm not sure. I hope once I get in, if I get in, that we can determine some things that will help out. But I think right now, we've got to try to figure out something to improve our roads in town, because it's not a good thing for people to come in and see either. I think that's all I have.
Well, I'm going to be pretty much like Dale too. The roads are the main thing in town here. I think what I would like to see, we've been moving money out of motor fuel tax to light the city lights. I would like to see this money put back into the motor fuel pool and fix the streets. Some of them we won't be able to fix too many, but that will give us some money to do this job. There is the water well down here. I don't know if it's online yet. There's been all kinds of problems. The sewer system is kaput, needs to be redone. We can't find a place to put it for sure. I think maybe some people got the cart ahead of the horse and thought they were going to put it one place, and that may not work. I don't think it will. So that is a couple of 2 or 3 of my concerns. Thank you.
Okay, I guess my top priorities would be, like they've already said, infrastructure. The streets are in horrible condition. If you go up to the cemetery, I mean, they might as well put gravel in up there. It would be better than it is now. And if I get elected, they're going to have to look at cuts. They're going to have to cut somewhere to get more, not really more important, but things that we are on or doing every day. That's all.
I have to agree with everybody too about the streets and various things. The water treatment plant, I think, is very important for the city because it's going to be one of the largest expenses the city's had in a very, very long time. But I think it's important that the city figures out different ways of developing revenue. And by developing revenue, this will help pay for some of the things that we need to get fixed and ultimately help our taxes not go up so much, I hope. So I think we need to be creative. We need to help our businesses. We need to learn how to grow and generate revenue. And if we do that, I think this other stuff will take care of itself.
Okay, I agree with basically everything that's been said. Roads, our well, our sewer and water treatment plant. The sports complex is a problem, has to be dealt with. We have to put that on a positive note. I guess everything the council has to deal with would be a priority. We just have to work with it, find ways to generate money, and make the city grow.
I think fiscal management is kind of the start and end of many of these projects. I think in the past couple of years, the fiscal situation of Morrison has improved. I agree that many new revenue streams need to be explored. The infrastructure, not only do we have to complete our projects and make sure that this infrastructure is replaced, but then we also have to plan for the future. Whether we want to admit it or not, keeping low water bills in the short term leads to high water bills 10 or 20 years down the road. And we're starting to see that now. I think we need to look at our overall infrastructure, not just the wastewater treatment, but also the sewer and water lines in addition to streets. We need to have a comprehensive plan for their maintenance and replacement over time. Thank you.
next question will be for our mayoral candidates. And we will start with Sarah Thorndike. And everyone, be prepared. If elected, will you bring the issue of Sunday liquor sales back for discussion during your term in office? Explain your position.
Yes, I voted for that when it was brought up before. I think it's only fair. There are places that are allowed to sell liquor on Sundays, and taverns are not. I think to be fair to everyone, either everybody gets to buy a drink on Sunday or nobody does. So, if Sullivan's can sell liquor on Sundays, KJ should be able to as well.
I have no problem bringing back the Sunday liquor sales. I would probably want to stipulate it that it could not start until noon on Sunday. I think there's better things to do on Sunday morning. But as far as what Sarah said, it's true. Everybody else around the communities are doing this. It's a revenue that we're letting walk out of Morrison, and I don't think there'd be a lot of negative impact if we allowed it to start on Sunday afternoons.
I agree. I would definitely bring back the liquor sales on Sunday issue. I feel the bars are the only place that make their living, that's their sole living, is that is what they are, the bar. And they're the only ones that are not allowed to be open on Sunday at this time. We're missing out on some revenue, and if we do allow liquor sales on Sundays at the bars, I would highly recommend not having it at the sport complex, if that ever comes up.
Now we'll go back to our alderman. The question is, there are many different people that live in your ward with many different views. How will you represent all of your constituents, especially when the majority may have a differing opinion than the loudest minority? And this one goes to Mr. Zeidema.
Well, as I said before, I'm going to try to have monthly meetings to listen to my people in my ward and the city, how you deal with different views. You look at how many you have one way, how many you have another way, and try to figure out a solution that will compromise, and maybe you can come up with a clear solution that will please everybody. This will not always happen. You can always try.
Okay, I'll always be willing to listen to any citizen in my ward and try to determine pros and cons, which way is a good way, but ultimately, they elect a council person to vote as they would like them to vote, but you can only get about half of them happy, I guess.
I think it's important to listen to everybody's viewpoints and then weigh your decision based on what you've heard from both sides. Obviously, you're not going to be able to please everybody all the time, but again, compromise is a good thing. You're not going to win every battle. You've got to pick your battles. But if the majority of the people in a ward decide on a certain issue, I think that issue should be decided in that fashion. And that's kind of the way that I would approach it.
I guess to some of you that know me, I've refereed high school and college sports for 30-some years, so I've dealt with controversy on the good side, and I've dealt with controversy on the bad side or the other side, and somehow we always got to finish the game and proceed and go on from there. I will deal the same way. I will listen to all the people, try and make the best decision for my ward and or the city of Morrison, and hopefully we can go forward from there.
I would always be receptive to citizens in my ward, and do get phone calls occasionally, and I'm happy to hear the opinions and the views expressed. think as an elected official, you have to balance what you feel is best for the citizens and what public opinion seems to be saying. 'Cause it's often difficult to tell whether the people who are complaining loudest do have the majority. In a representative democracy, the election is the process in which you elect someone who seems to hold your views and hope that they will make the best decisions that they can for your benefit. A direct democracy is one in which you vote on individual issues. I will definitely listen to all sides. I will definitely consider viewpoints, not just listen to them, but consider the arguments behind them and what might motivate those opinions. I think you can't understand your viewpoint unless you can truly understand someone else's that disagrees with you. But I also think that you need to act from conviction on what you think is best and follow your conscience. Thank you.
Well, I see most of my neighbors are here tonight, so I guess I'd go with what they say, or else I'd have to mow my own lawn. I think that what you have to do is let your conscience be your guide. You know, you're gonna get the opinion from a lot of people, and you still have to make up your own mind. I think the majority in most cases are gonna be right. Just because somebody's louder doesn't give them the right to push somebody around, so what they say.
This question goes to our mayoral candidates. We will begin in a moment with Mr. Kinnear. Can you tell us about your background in financial matters, budgeting, and prioritizing needs?
It's actually pretty easy for me. I spent most of my salary career working with budgets and prioritizing them and reviewing them and making them work. I do that with all of the people that are submitting budgets to make them go through and think twice about what they've said, up or down, and then we need to explain why we're going up, why we're going down. So those are important. I think I have the ability to go ahead and do that. I believe that when you look at the financial needs of the city, we've got some real problems ahead of us that we need to face, but we can do it as a good council group and a good administrative group. The one thing about it, the big one, is the city streets. You've heard that from everybody. And I think there's a way to prioritize all of the streets in the city, best to worst, worst to best, identify what it's going to take to fix those streets, because there are alternatives as to the types of surfaces you do them on. And then how would we do it, and how much money would we spend each year? It's going to take several years to get it fixed, but that would be a top priority, and that would be one of the things I focus on for budgeting.
Can you tell us what your background is in financial matters, budgeting, and prioritizing needs?
Well, I guess I don't have an official background in financing, but I have raised a family. I was a single mom. I lost my job during that time. I had breast cancer, and I also worked all through that. And I learned to budget on very low wages over the years, and I do prioritize. You need to pay for the things you need first, and then maybe you can look at the things you want. We all have to do that, and I think we need to look at our streets and the necessary things we need in our town before we do hiring or before we spend on the things we want. So I might not have a big financial background as per se studied, but I have common sense.
Budgets are hard. When I first started working for the News Sentinel, the hardest thing I had to report on were the budgets, because I had no idea what I was looking at. But I spent over 20 years reading the school board budget, reading the city's budget, and coming to understand where the monies were going, where the monies were coming from. There are many different funds that the city has. Some are restricted. You can only use some funds for some things. You can use some things for this, but you can't use them for this. It's hard to understand. There are pages and pages. However, I have worked very hard at learning to understand those and prioritizing the needs that we have. Obviously, infrastructure is one. Personnel is a big need. That's usually our biggest expense, is personnel. We have really excellent people working for the city, and we want to keep them here. And sometimes that makes some hard decisions in your budgets.
All the minute candidates. Name 2 or 3 things that you would support in order to grow our economy and generate some much-needed revenue. I've been waiting for that answer. Oh, excuse me, it is Nancy's turn.
I'm gonna do a Marco Rubio here. Okay, I honestly don't know. I'll just say it right out. It's one of those situations where you have to be in there and to see what's going on to find out where you can make some changes and add some changes. So honestly, I don't know.
Try to generate revenue. Obviously, we have a business park here in town that unfortunately only has one lot left in it, but it would be nice to try to bring mid-sized industry into that lot. That would generate some revenue. The other thing is that the existing businesses that we already have, if there's some way that we can help, with some kind of financing or something to help them generate more jobs and growth, I think that would help with revenue. Also, I believe that if we actually use the ball diamond as a positive instead of a negative, so that it would actually start generating some revenue so that it can take care of itself, I think that's a plus. I agree with her. Without actually being in there and seeing what's going on inside the city, it's kind of hard to come up with some kind of an idea for revenue.
I guess the same situation would be involved would be drawing new businesses or an industry into this area. We have an industrial park that I know has some vacant spaces in it. I think the city council, the schools, the chamber, Morrison area development, if we as all groups could work together to bring some businesses to this town. It doesn't have to be a, industrial or business that's going to bring 100, 200, 300 people. We need to start someplace. We've got some empty buildings sitting in this town. We need to bring money into this community. If we want to work on our other priorities, then we have to do this also.
I think everybody in this room and in this city is obviously part of this big organization that we call Morrison. But oftentimes we talk about the city and we maybe talk about something that we didn't like to happen that we don't feel responsibility to. I think if we come together as a community, and I think we've seen some great improvements lately in the tone of the community. The Chamber of Commerce has done a fabulous job of communicating, getting word to aldermen and outside agencies in the community of things that are happening, showcasing our good schools, and supporting our businesses. We do have a few new businesses that are opening and more on the way in our community, and we need to help support those businesses. Whether it's new industry or simply increased property tax base through people moving in, I think we do need to explore new revenue streams and an overall project an overall atmosphere of positive energy in our community. I think we do have some opportunities, possibly imminent opportunities in our area. We need to be ready for these opportunities.
Well, I agree with what all the mayor candidates are talking about. Sunday liquor sales, I think, would be a little source of revenue. I think the asset that we've got sitting out there with all those ball diamonds, if we utilize that to its max, that would help. Bringing new businesses to town, utilizing the buildings we have would be a great idea too, but that's hard to do. We lost True Value off of Main Street, and now we got another empty building sitting there. No offense to him. He's got a good business where he's at, but that's another building we would like to fill, but I don't know for sure what we're gonna put in there, so.
I want to thank Don for staying in Morrison. He's been a great asset to the city. I think where we have to go here is Thompson Prison. We got to fight for people to move to Morrison through the prison center, if it ever comes. Thank you.
Marty, we'll start with you with this question. What guidelines or criteria will you use to set the council's agendas? How will you decide what goes on the agenda?
That's a good question. Well, criteria would be what we have going on in our community. I think first of all, our council would have to get together and set some goals for the community that we all know about. Right now, I'm kind of at a loss of what the big picture is because not all the aldermen are informed. And I think we need to get that straightened out. And so criteria would be what is present, things we have to deal with. I think we need to slow down on making new ordinances, follow the ordinances that we already have on our boards and enforce them. And we would see what we actually need to take care of in town. I don't know, I used to be the president of the JCs and I didn't have a problem making an agenda, so it would be, it's what's going on. We have to go by what's going on.
That is one of the cool things about being mayor is you get to set the agenda. One of the things I would do is one of the things I did with the ad hoc leave disposal committee, in that you had public comment at the beginning and then you had a time for public comment afterward if people wanted to say something after the discussions. What criteria I would use, we recently put something on the agenda that one of the residents came up with. He wanted us to look at walking dogs in the cemetery. I personally don't think we should walk dogs in the cemetery, but he wanted us to look at it, so it went on the agenda. I would welcome any input for somebody who wanted something, the council to discuss something. Obviously, there are things that come up that we do need to discuss. We need to discuss ordinances as they come up. Street regulations are a huge thing. And the reports from our, I don't know what you call them, our subcommittees, the Historic Preservation Commission, Planning and Zoning, those things go on the agenda, and those are very important. And I probably have some personal agendas too. I would like very much for us to be an Audubon tree city. I would like us to have more trees. So there are lots of things I would like to put on the agenda.
checking the agendas and what I have seen in the past few months attending the council meetings. They're not too poorly put together, but I think there's a lot of times when things are thrown on the agenda where it requires the council to do immediate input. And I think that's wrong. We need to put things on the agenda ahead of time so that the council can think about them, so that the public can hear what it is we're going to be discussing, give input to their council people, and then we can bring it back and talk about it. To me, there should be very few things that require immediate attention on any agenda. The agenda needs to be concise so that you can move through. We don't need to have meetings that start at 7 and finish at 11, but we can move through, take the input from the community, take input from the council, but maybe more importantly, take input from the department heads as to what it is that should be on that agenda. And yes, as mayor, I would probably have a few favorite things to put on and keep bringing back as well. But make it concise and make it to the point where people have a chance to give input on all the things that are going to show up on the agenda so they feel that they've been a part of that decision going forward. That's it.
This question will start with Kurt Bender. What is your view on the recreational trail, which would connect our community with Rockwood State Park?
I'm in favor of the trail myself. I think I think recreation in parks is very important for a community. I think it adds to our quality of life. And by adding the recreation trail from where it is out to Rockwood Park, not only would it enhance and bring people and tourism into town using the path, I also believe that it's a safety concern also, because for people riding their bicycles and everything out there now going to the park, it's kind of not a very safe passage. And so I'm definitely in favor of the trail. And I hope the city council acts on that fairly quickly.
I guess I have a differing view from the fact I think the trail is a good idea. I question perhaps why the city is involved directly with it. I think we have some mystery as far as financing, is how we're going to get this trail completed. I think we need to, as a council, if we're still looking at it, if we're fortunate some of us to get elected, we need to more thoroughly look into this trail. I'm not saying it's a bad idea. Maybe perhaps we should build a trail to the Morrison Sports Complex somehow also. So whatever the answer is, we as a council hopefully can find a good solution.
I support the bike trail 100%. As a young boy, I walked and rode out to Rockwood and had some close calls. When I ride out with my family, I make sure to keep the young children ahead of me so I can be the human shield if somebody's flying around the corner. As far as the city's involvement in the trail, the city's role has been relatively minimal. Luckily, we have some good volunteers in our community, Friends of the Parks, that have spearheaded this effort. The city's basically supporting them as an entity that has official existence in the eyes of the state of Illinois, which aids with the Friends of the Parks in their efforts to get the trail completed. We had one short section of trail completed, and the plans are to phase in another one. Hopefully, if that goes well, it's going to be a relatively, well actually this part is going to be at no cost to the taxpayer, but we are going to see the benefits as a community, as people who own businesses in this community, and people who have or know or love children in this community. Thank you.
Well, I kind of agree with Vern on that if you're going to have a priority for a bike trail, I'd rather see it go out to the ballpark. But I think it's different money. I think we're talking about state going out to Rockwood. So if the city's going to be involved, I would rather see a priority out to the ballpark. But I don't, like Scott said, it's a limited amount for the city.
Well, actually, the city has a match, but generous donors have come up with a match, so it's going to be real. It's going to be at no cost to the taxpayer.
Well, if we can put something on the table for a path out to the ballpark, I think that'd be a good idea for the kids too.
Loaded question. I probably know more about this than anybody in this room. This is no guarantee that this will be no cost to the city of Morrison. This estimate for this park was done over 5 years ago. This engineering firm is no longer connected with this trail. This trail was, I have the easement to this trail. My easement says this trail will be an asphalt trail. They got a grant saying this trail will be aggregate, crushed rock. So therefore, this looks like it's an illegal situation. I agree, money should be spent in town. I don't think this should be something outside of the city limits. If anybody wants to talk to me about this, I have a 35 to 40 page report on this. Come and see me. Thank you.
Oh, we forgot you.
I don't want to say anything. I'm kind of scared now. Okay, having a safe bike path and walking path to the park would be one of the things we could promote to bring in revenue. Bicycle clubs, you've got other health type walking groups that you could promote that, so that would bring in some revenue. Another thing is, yeah, if it's going to cost the city anything, let's look 2 or 3 times at it, because we've got other priorities and they'll just have to be cut somewhere.
Okay. There we go. Back to Sarah Thornett. What is your view of historic preservation as it pertains to economic development of Morrison?
Okay, I'm going to agree with Harvey. This is kind of a loaded question, isn't it? I am very much in favor of historic preservation. I've been doing a lot of reading on it. I don't see where there's a downside to it. You get a number of tax breaks with money that you put into historic preservation, into buildings that you are preserving, if you are an historic building or in a historic district. They don't come if you're not in the district. The downside to that is if you do get a tax break and you sell the building or somebody removes the improvements that you made, you have to give the tax break back. You have to give that money back. Communities that have encouraged and preserved their heritage buildings are not sorry. They've done study after study. It only brings economic benefits. When people drive through Morrison, they say, oh, look at those beautiful houses on the hill. Those historic houses. We don't want to tear those down. Those should be in a historic district. A lot of things done to buildings in our downtown would not have been done if they'd been in a historic district, and they would look better today. I thoroughly believe in historic preservation, but I do think that we need to look at the regulations that we have, and with the city and the commission work together to make them more understandable. They are now working on a booklet of the criteria needed with pictures and examples. I'm done.
I'm in favor of historical preservation. I believe that in the long run, it does bring benefits to your community and improves the economy. It would make Morrison more of a destination point for people to come. I also believe that what we've done so far could have possibly been done better, with a little better explanation, a little bit more involvement with people, so that there was a thorough understanding of what does historic preservation mean. I think if we can get on the National Historic Register, that would be a big deal for Morrison. But we've got a ways to go, and we've got a lot of people to convince that this is the right thing to do. I'm a little disappointed that some people opted out, but again, that was the rules. They were given an opportunity to do so. I think maybe in the long run, they'll want to get back in. But historic preservation is a positive for a town, but it takes a while to get there, and it takes a while to see the results. And that's one of the problems. We're all anxious, we all want to see something now. It doesn't happen that way. But I'm for historic preservation.
Well, I too am for historic preservation if it's done properly by making sure you've got the residents behind you. I know I've probably gone over this hundreds of times because we had ordinances in place. The Historic Preservation Commission did not go by their own ordinances. I think we should have included the 24% signatures of people in Historic Preservation District to be behind the district, which that didn't happen. Property owners were not, they were not informed the legal manner that was stated to do in the ordinance. They contacted renters. Well, renters don't look at the property owners' things and keep them or pass them on. They probably pitch them. The people that were already taking care of their buildings have already done it. The ones that aren't taken care of on Main Street, a lot of those people do not even live in Morrison. They own the building but might not live here. So I think historic preservation could work if we started over and did it right and got the people behind the whole project. I think it would, if we do it right the first time, you know, which that means start over.
Vernon Terrell, this is for you and everyone else on your team. How will you use your position as an alderman to promote and practice shopping local?
I guess my time that I spend in this town, I shop locally as much as I can. There's just sometimes you just can't do it. You have to go out of town to do it. But again, we need to bring businesses to this town. As was mentioned earlier, we have some empty buildings on Main Street. We have to promote the downtown area. That's councilman. The councilman can do that with the help of the other organizations in this town, the Chamber and the Morrison Area Development. We have to stand behind these people and help the community and help these business owners.
I don't think it was until I really became an alderman that I understood the impact of shopping locally. They say that for every dollar you spend in a community, it can bounce around 2 or 3 different times and have an impact on, again, 2 or 3 different people within that community, not to mention the city itself and the sales tax revenues. I value the businesses in Morrison. I don't know how many times I was so glad that Don was still in business on a Sunday afternoon when I messed up my plumbing again and had to go down to True Value and get the right part. It's great to have a grocery store with the selection that we have in this town. So I think we do need to maybe urge that more on the community, not just as Chamber of Commerce, but also as a city and as a group, the impact that that does have on all of us as citizens. Thank you.
Scott's point is a good one, that if you spend $1 in town, it stays here. I think it's something that we gotta educate all the citizens on. We're all in this together. If we want better roads, we all gotta shop local. Those are the things that are gonna help us all. So I think it's just education of the people and just, try to get them to shop local as much as they can.
I want to say thank you, Don, again. We go there quite often. You support the Morrison Historical Society. I have bought my last 6 vehicles in Morrison at 2 different dealerships. That's all I got to say. Thank you.
Okay, I agree with that. Shopping local is good, and maybe if other businesses were trying to get to come to Morrison, see how well our local businesses are going and people are shopping there, maybe an incentive for them to open a new business in town.
I practice shopping local in Morrison, and it get preached to me every day, so I think the Chamber of Commerce does a wonderful job trying to promote the businesses in this town, and I think it's important that we all support the businesses in the town, because it does definitely make our community better, and it will draw more businesses to our community if we show that we have a strong backing of the local businesses. Done?
We'll begin with Mr. Kinnear. Do you think we should operate in the red to allow some of the major infrastructure needs to be addressed? Please explain why you think so.
Looking at where we're at today, I think it would be impossible to not operate in the red. I, like everybody else, would think that we would love to be in the black at all times. But in order to do certain things, sometimes you have to make an expenditure that looks out. I believe we've got about $4.2 million in general obligation bonds that the city is allowed to use, and I believe we've used about 2.9 of them. So we got about $1 million in general obligation bonds out there. But again, anything else like that, you have to pay it back at some point. This community is not bringing in revenue faster than what we should properly expend it. The trick is, you've got to be able to look at all of the things that you need to expend money on. You've got to evaluate the priorities of those and pick the ones that are the most important. And if that means making some cuts in some other areas to move money to those areas that you need, then that's what has to be done. But when you're already $2.9 million owing in general obligation bonds, it's hard to say that you're not going to operate in the red. The trick is, don't get any redder. Make it a little pink, and then red back.
I guess that's what I've been pushing for all along, more cuts, managing our resources efficiently. Citizens united to save. We do need infrastructure taken care of. I'd like to slow down our spending on our wants, and so that we do have the necessary things for our residents. Our streets are very important, our wastewater treatment plant, we have the well up, but we have a lot of loans out that reach out 10, 15 years, and we do have to pay them back. So I'd just like to slow the spending.
Well, unfortunately, sometimes you do have to operate in the red. The city of Morrison essentially has 2 pools of money. There's water sewer money, and then there's the general fund money. Water sewer money would go for things like the sewage treatment plant, sewer repairs. General fund money would go for streets. The things such as the water treatment plant would need to be paid for out of those funds. And we can't pay for streets with money that we get from your water bill. So those are separate. A number of times you operate in the red because you have vehicle set-aside funds. We try to set aside money for vehicle replacements in every budget. So you set aside $5,000 this year, $5,000 the next year, $5,000 the next year, and eventually we have enough money to buy Brian a new squad car. Now, the year that you buy that car, it's going to look like you're in the red, but you aren't actually in the red because you've been saving for that. That's money that you've put away to pay for that, just like you do in your own budget. Eventually, you're going to need a new car. You don't want to have car payments, so you try to set aside that money ahead of time. Do we operate in the red sometimes? Yeah, we do. Should we? No. We need to have a balanced budget, but that balanced budget needs to include the revenue that we have accumulated in previous years.
All right, this will be our last question for the alderman. It goes to Scott Connolly first. Should the sports complex be subsidized by the general fund?
At this point, it should. Our parks and recreation budget has always been subsidized by the general fund. We just saw a presentation at a city council meeting 2 weeks ago in which the amount of the deficit in parks and recreation has grown. The percentage of deficit compared to all the different buildings and acreage that we have since the sports complex has actually decreased. This is due in part from the revenues that the sports complex has brought in. Do they outweigh the expenditures of managing, maintaining, and staffing the sports complex and the Parks and Recreation District? They do not. There is no ballpark outside of Wrigley Field, perhaps, or major league ballparks that are really truly self-sustaining. They're usually subsidized by a park district. Your minor league ballparks, they're subsidized by the major league teams and they can barely stay afloat. They don't bring in enough admission. Unless we wanted to hold our not-for-profit organizations such as Little League Baseball and Softball, the junior tackle football program, if we wanted to hold them hostage and make them pay exorbitant fees to use the facilities, we can make it work. I think you recoup the revenues that you spend through your parks, through your property tax base, attracting residents to the community, the sales tax dollars that you generate, drawing people into the tournaments and events that you hold at a facility like this. The Westwood Sports Complex in Sterling does not make a profit. They're subsidized by a park district which taxes residents. Thank you.
I don't have a problem with being subsidized by the general fund. I agree with everything Scott said. I don't think I can say it any better. So I guess my point is, yes, I think it can be subsidized. We need it.
The ball complex is a great thing. What I see here, though, is we started out with maybe a $40,000 deficit the first year. We're now up around 180,000. This needs to start to go the other direction. I'm not in favor of a recreation, whatever you call it, district. That's just more taxes for you folks out there. Thank you.
Well, Scott kind of had the advantage, he's got like the inside road to that whole situation. I'll just say I'm totally not real happy with the sports complex. It seems like it's a big money pit. And again, you're gonna have to cut somewhere. It's great we have one, it's great there's a place for them to go, but let's quit just bleeding money through there. yeah, the city can subsidize to a limit and see if there's any other ways to cut buying something there that will help along with the money pit.
I agree that we keep subsidizing it. I think Scott did a wonderful job explaining it. We own it. I mean, we're gonna have to pay for it no matter what. So I think, you know, if it can generate more revenue in the future, I think that's important.
I guess I'm a sports nut, so I support the Morrison Complex. I know Jim who runs it, he's a good gentleman. I agree with what Scott has said. We just have to generate some more income out of that complex, and it's going to be a tough job. In the years of experience I had in my job, I worked in a lot of cities that had park and recreation departments. What Harvey said, though, it does generate some tax. So I think as a council, we have to look at some ways that perhaps we can generate some more money into that complex somehow, other than the concession stands. Entry fees are almost a nil because you pay out some of that back out to the winning teams. So it's a big project, and it's going to take a lot of work.
This is from Marty. Do you think that the city council subcommittees, for example, police, finance, public works, and parks, should be reinstated? If you say yes, how often do you think those subcommittees should meet? Need to hear that again? Okay.
I do believe that we could benefit from having subcommittees because that would provide someone directly from the council being a liaison to a department or like say the finances department or whatever that could go over the bills and come back to the council with a brief report, and then you wouldn't have to dig through everything before every meeting to try to figure out what's going on. And how often would they meet? I think that would be up to the individual group, depending on what's going on. You know, if it's if they're having issues, they probably want to meet more often. But if not, maybe once a month, or depending on the group, what they're working on. But I do think it would be good to get them back and work together with the council. They'd be council members a part of it, so the council would have someone directly bringing information to us, not just a written report.
It sounds like such a good idea, in theory. In practice, it's not that great an idea. When I first started working for the News Sentinel, they had the city council subcommittees. What seemed to happen was the subcommittee would discuss the issue, come up with a plan, come up with a decision. They would present that then to the city council. Then the other council members would either vote on it almost blindly, not having been a part of that discussion, or you would create that whole discussion all over again with the entire council. And that happened more and more often. Because if you have 3 or 4 members of the city council on a subcommittee, then the other 4 members, well, what did you discuss? Did you think of this? Did you think of that? Well, no. Well, yes, we did think of that. It leads to just going over the same information again and again. So I really don't think it's a good idea.
I guess I'm somewhere in between and a little bit of a loss because not having been on the council, I don't know what the shortcomings of having those committees was or is. To me, it never hurts to have more good eyes looking at something. I think if the department heads wanted to have a committee of people that would come in and give them some advice, some questions and things that might help them. I've always felt that when I was in business, the success that I had was all due to the people around me. And the more good people that I had around me, the better the business went and the better I looked. So I'm not opposed to having committees. You certainly can't have more than 2 council people involved, because then you've got an illegal meeting. But you could have one that would be a rep, perhaps, if you wanted them to show up at those meetings. And again, it gets back to a little bit on communications. Whatever the committees, whatever the department heads are doing, needs to be communicated to everybody. And it needs to be done in a fashion that it doesn't bring a decision that has to be made without advice and input. However you can become informed, that's what you should be doing. I don't think there's a problem perhaps having a committee, but again, you don't want to get it so that it saddles everybody so that they can't act, or everybody else has to be reporting here and there. But if department heads want to have committees, I'd let them. Thank you.
Begin with Sarah. Can you give us one way to induce or encourage residents, the businesses, our city council, our city leaders to really work together? And how might you make that happen?
Could you read that one more time? That was kind of long.
Can you give us one way to induce or encourage our residents, our businesses, city council, and city leaders to all work together as a whole? And how might you make that happen?
Wow. Everybody play nice. I think we all can work together. I mean, it's really not that difficult. You disagree with people all the time. If you're married, obviously, if you've been married for very long, I mean, I've been married over 30 years. There are times I want to beam my husband with a frying pan. But we can still discuss things, we still get along. You can disagree with council people, your department heads. You can disagree with everybody, but still get along. I think the important thing is to listen to people and figure out where they are coming from. That sounds so hippie-ish, where are you coming from? But you need to know the thought processes behind the reasons why somebody wants to do a certain thing. There may be good reasons that you hadn't thought of. And listening is key. You need to ask questions. Draw people out as to what their opinions are. You might find you've changed your mind, or you might change their mind. If not, there's always a compromise somewhere in the middle where you can meet.
Bringing people together, communicating, I think, is one of my strong points. At least I was told that it was when I was in business. I think that one of the challenges, and it's not just of the mayoral position, it's of the council people as well. We've got to have our discussions, we've got to have our disagreements, we've got to lay our cards on the table, we've got to understand all the information available, then we've got to vote and make a decision. And when we've made that decision, we accept it and we move on. We don't keep bringing it back up. We don't keep saying it was wrong. We move on and we go to the next decision. Honesty is the best thing that you've got. Listen to people, be honest, express your opinions, listen to their opinions, and make it all work. You've got to be a diplomat, not just the mayor, but all the council people. And I've got a little thing on my wall in my office that says, being a good diplomat is the ability to let other people have your way.
Well, I think open communication, that's a good way to encourage residents and businesses to work together. Always having a phone, you know, if you got a problem, call me. That I believe, you know, if you talk to people about things and listen, and then if you find a solution, get back to them. That helps a lot, just that communication, because you interacted and made sure they knew that you were working for them. That's what I try to do as an alderman, I would do that as mayor. I think education, when we have big issues going on, like the wastewater treatment plant, we all should be educated before we're making decisions. We need all the information, because without all the information, none of us make good decisions. So education is a big thing on our way to encourage businesses and residents to work together, share information.
This is our last question of the evening. As the new mayor, would you attend mayoral trainings, conferences, and meetings that are available to elected officials to learn from and to network with other community leaders? I'm going to repeat that. As the new mayor, would you attend mayoral trainings, conferences, and meetings?
Without a doubt, I would do that. There are probably some times I'd have to take my wife along. But no, I think those are important. Some of the committees and groups that I'm associated with today have meetings off-site. I know there's a mayoral conference that they have in Northwestern Illinois meetings. I would certainly plan on going to that. And I have no reservations or questions about who should be paying for that. I have no problem paying for that myself, because I think that's just part of the job that I'm signing up for. I want to learn all I can about it. I've been in business. I think I know leadership and communication, but I don't know about mayorism, or whatever the term would be. So there's some things I got to learn here. I hope it doesn't get too political, because quite frankly, I don't like politics. In this city, fortunately, this is a nonpartisan election, and I think we just got a job to do, and we need to do it in the best, quickest, honest way that we can. But yes, I would participate in those meetings.
As a new mayor, I would like to attend some kind of trainings, whatever's offered out there. And when I became an alderman, I went to a training for aldermen. It wasn't specific to our city, and I would have liked an orientation. And I believe that an orientation of some type, even talking to someone that is already a mayor, to come in and kind of give you some guidelines on what they've already experienced, good or bad, that would be a good way to learn. Invite other mayors and just have a little round table and see where they learned, what they learned, and how they benefited from it. So I definitely would like some type of orientation training.
Did I attend conferences? You betcha. I love conferences. More knowledge is never a bad thing. The more you know, the better you can do your job. Whereas you might find conferences that don't directly apply to Morrison, you can always get ideas from them. Sharing ideas is the best way to come up with new ways to have things to come to our town. New developments, new ways of paying for things. Conferences are a great way to network with other mayors, with other people. Sometimes there are things that you can do combining your cities. We have a grant program that's set up that combines Morrison and Sterling and Rock Island. We're going to get some money for that. And the more you know, the better you can do your job.
Now, to conclude the commentary, we're going to give each of the candidates 1 minute to make a closing statement, whatever they like to share with you. And we'll just go right down the line.
My closing statement will probably be as long as my opening statement, but if elected, I will do the best I can to serve the city of Morrison, do what I can to hopefully fix some of the problems we've got, and that's about all I got.
All items need to be discussed in advance and more thoroughly considered before being acted upon. Every project needs to be explored in depth before spending a dime of our taxpayers' dollars. Running the city council meetings, I would like to see us go back to the work session, have a agenda that pays the bills and that sort of thing, and then just go into work session and not vote on anything. If I didn't have a love for the city of Morrison and the residents, I would be at home in my easy chair and not here tonight. Thank you.
Okay, if elected, I would do my best. I'm really for budget cuts. I know they're not popular, but in these times, they're necessary. And I guess that's all. Thank you.
I would work really hard for my constituents and my ward. I work hard. If I don't know something, I will definitely go out and try to learn it, find out if there's a better way, and try to relay that to my constituents. I've adopted this town as my home. I call this home, and I'm proud to say that I live in Morrison, and I'll work hard for the residents of this town.
One more time. In recent years, Morrison has struggled with the financial issues to impact the future possibilities of the city. As the daily quality of living of people in Morrison, I'm running to help preserve those qualities and make Morrison unique. I will do all I can to improve the city government, community interest, and at the same time using my experience and professional oversight as needed. We need to preserve Morrison Historical Society, enjoy the parks, the libraries, the community center, the arts, the recreation programs. Morrison has had a reputation for a wonderful quality of life, yet currently many of these things are being lost. We need to create ways to protect this character of our neighborhood, preserve our community service and our local retail areas. We need a plan that will allow Morrison to thrive in a sustainable way into the future. I'm committed to that task.
As you may or may not know, I'm running unopposed in my ward for an unexpired term. But I felt it was important to express some of my views with you here tonight. I want to thank you all for coming. I think it's a good sign for the future of democracy when we have filled rooms for public forums. I encourage you all to get out and vote. Thank you.
And we will now hear from our mayor candidates. 1 moment of the floor.
Okay. 4 years ago, I started going to city council meetings. 2 people, Rich and I, went. We got to talk to the council and interject during the meetings, and it was great. And I started writing letters to the editor because I thought more people should know what's going on here. So I continued, and I continue to this day, writing letters to the editor and trying to keep people informed. And I'm excited about this. This is wonderful. All you people showing up tonight. A vote for me is a vote for honesty and integrity, and I'd like to see you encourage everybody, everyone here, get out and vote, and all your friends, everybody, get out there and vote. Make your voice heard.
As I said before, I'm well aware of the financial issues facing the city, and controlling expenditures is a key element. There is a word of caution, however, and that is we cannot get so focused on not spending money that we forget that there are still going to be times when we must support business growth and development, as well as funding some improvements in the quality of life for all residents. Our school system is struggling, but it is still finding ways to be one of the best in the area. People look to the schools when choosing a place to live, but they also look at the community to see how progressive and forward-thinking they are. If we do not demonstrate a similar willingness to work together, to exhibit pride in Morrison, and to educate ourselves about what it takes to be a dynamic community, we cannot expect outsiders to give us a second look. This is a balancing act requiring leadership and communication. I can do that job, and I'm asking the voters to give me a chance when they go to the polls on April 9th. Good luck to all the candidates, and thank you for listening this evening.
Well, as I used to tell my kids, you don't lie. You always tell the truth, because lying is just too hard. I will never lie to somebody who asks me a question. I might not answer that question, but no comment is better than a lie. I love Morrison. I was born here. I chose to live here. I still live here. I think it can be a better place, and I want to help make that better place.
Well, this is your chance. Let's have a big round of applause. City Administrator Jim Wise is in the back corner. He's been videotaping the proceedings. This videotape will be available in various sites so that you might come back to it and go over somebody's answer that you weren't quite sure about, or convince yourself one way or another. But also please tell your friends that were not able to attend tonight, that they might be able to see it. So Corinne's going to put it on the Chamber of Commerce website, as well as the MADC website. She's putting on your Morrison Chamber Facebook page, excuse me. It will be on the City of Morrison website, and maybe even on the cityon.com. I have to see if I can finagle that, but I'm set up to do videos too. So you'll have an opportunity to come back and revisit the comments that were made here. I was very pleased with all of you. Thank you very much. The media would like to have our candidates over to the side so they can get their nice photo of the whole group, while the rest of you proceed to the back and enjoy some wonderful refreshments. And you will now have your chance to talk to the candidates individually. If there was a question that we did not produce tonight, you're on your own. They'll be here for a little while. We have the place, of course, for another 20 minutes, so please stick around. And this brings our 9 o'clock, she says, okay, an hour and 20 minutes, go for it. This now brings our Meet the Candidates forum to an end, and we thank you ever so much for coming tonight.